Now, 1984 Chevrolet K30 crew cab, 1 ton, 4x4, 350, 5.7 V8 engine. We're going to do a cooling system overhaul, which will entail some new stuff. Okay, this is just factory situations here. We've got the radiator cap, which is that part number. We have the thermostat, which is that number. If you didn't see this number, because I couldn't see that number because I didn't have my glasses on, there's that number for the radiator cap. This little thermostat is the smallest I've ever seen. I have dealt with a lot of 350s, etc., but this seems to be small. When I picked it up from the parts house, I thought that was the incorrect one, but it actually is the correct one. That is your thermostat housing gasket. You will need 4 of these clamps. I'm going to try and use these smaller clamps on the smaller hose because nothing drives me crazy more than when there's a big ass pigtail hanging out of your hose clamp. So you will need 1 piece of 3/4 inch hose, heater hose. You will need 1 5/8 inch heater hose, and coincidentally they are both I think the one hose is 1 inch longer than the other, but basically they are 42 inches long. Yeah, so right along with me as I rejuvenate the heating system. Oh, you also need some antifreeze. So I have 2 of these jugs. I had 1 jug just laying around. I bought the other jug. Do not run straight antifreeze. I am going to put as much of this in as I can just to get rid of it. This is a 50-50 mix. If you only have 1 of these, then you will stick your distilled water at a 50-50 mix. All right. You've attached like a 1/4 inch hose to the end of this little spigot. And this is a plastic radiator, so it's been replaced. And then turn your little valve, and I attach the hose because it makes a complete mess after splashing off of everything on its way down. Your local parts house should take the used antifreeze. Mine does, I know that. Anyway, and don't dump this behind your garage because animals die because of antifreeze. It shuts their systems down, just like humans. 9/16. Maybe spray a little penetrating on these before. I had a Dodge truck that one of the bolts broke off. And that was a major pain in the ass, obviously. Wow, that's nasty. Look at the gasket. It's completely deteriorated, for God's sakes. That is a rusty mess. Little scrapey scrape. Get the old gasket, which this just feels like there's rust and no gasket on there. Absolutely no gasket. Oh, a little bit of gasket right there. So get that cleaned up. I don't know if this is, I know that this has been replaced. This engine's been replaced, so I don't know what I'm saying. Little wire wheel action. Make it fresh and clean. Just like brand new. Little scrapey scrape. Oops. Little scrapey scrape and wire wheel. Good as new. Except for that outer edge where I need to go back and do it. Oops. Dropped the screwdriver. only reason why I cut these is to get the proper size, but you will not need the proper size because I'm going to tell you what it is. Okay, this is the most delicate part. You do not want to break off the ends of the heater core, or else you're going to have another big project. And that's a lot bigger project than this is. So take your I've already loosened these, obviously. Take your screwdriver, push around in there. Just be as delicate as you can to pull those off. Because, like I said, if you break these off, that's a big ass project. This one you don't have to be so ginger with, because if that's fragile, you get bigger problems. Well, steel wool, clean things up. As soon as this heater core goes belly up, this thing has to have been replaced, for God's sakes. It's got to have like 180,000 miles on it. As soon as this heater core goes belly up, I'm getting the vintage air situation. That's one of the only things, besides the 7 miles to the gallon, it doesn't have air conditioning, and that is uncomfortable for me. Oops. Sorry, concentrating on the... Do a rough mock-up of your hoses, and then have your Sharpie with you, and do a rough cut where it is approximate. Always cut a little bit more than a little bit less. And for God's sakes, never cut towards you. Thermostat, little tower needs to be pointing upward. I put the slightest bit of RTV around the very outside edge, not on the thermostat area in there. Why is that not focusing? And then I put a little bit of RTV on the bottom side of the thermostat housing, just because I don't want any issues. You don't really need to, because there's raised ridges, but a little bit of anti-seize on the threads, just for good measure. And then I use the black RTV sparingly on the housing. A little clean, never hurt anything. It still has this factory clamp thing here, and I'm going to utilize that. So probably most trucks do not still have this, but anyway. Small hose clamps did not fit on the small hose. So you've got the small hose coming out of the bottom, it runs over here, and then that goes to your engine, and then you got the bigger one that comes over here, goes to the radiator. With that factory clamp, there's just the slightest bit of kink right there. So I'm going to kind of pull this back. If we weren't using this clamp, it would not be an issue. That was my head. Okay, everything is tightened up, and that drives me freaking crazy. That tail, so unprofessional. Pull up, fill her up. I cut this. God damn it. Apparently, I was just going to say that funnel is, I cut it off too big, and it was going to work for this, but it doesn't. So I take that back. The end does not fit into anything anymore. I have no clue how much this is going to take, but hopefully 2 of these jugs so I can get rid of them. Okay, so once you fill this all the way up, you are going to proceed to start the vehicle with the cap off. You're going to let it idle until operating temperature or until the thermostat opens up, and you will see some swooshing inside this radiator, like it's moving around. The water's moving around. And as soon as that happens, let that run for just a little bit, shut it off, and then top your radiator off, or top it off as necessary while it's running. And you should be good to go. But you also need to purge the system, so it needs to have time to get all the air bubbles out, etc., etc. So watch it. Maybe drive it just a little bit and check it again. I am no professional though. Lots of backyard experience though. Lots of mistakes. Nobody's perfect. And this truck will be back on the road again, because my little friend needs to use a truck. So I'm trying to get this vehicle as reliable as possible, because it makes me nervous driving it long distances. So we have pretty much, geez Louise, we have pretty much replaced almost everything, short of the major things. Engine, transmission. We did do the rear end. What the hell was I going to say? Oh, the one video about the Turbo 400 highest line pressure in reverse, blah blah blah, clunked when I put it into gear. That kit, that reverse softening kit that I put in the transmission, completely worked. Does not do what it used to do anymore. Completely cured it. And the transmission still shifts. So we're looking good with that. Gurgle, gurgle, gurgle. Let it sit for a bit. It's going down as I speak. And then we're going to fire it up. It's been about at least a month since this sucker has run. We might get 2 jugs in here. Okay, I'm going to fire it up. It's close enough. I've had enough. This sucker's going in the trash. For God's sakes.
I just started it. It's already gone down quite a bit.
Another successful project. Okay, so you are replacing all the heater hoses, the thermostat, the radiator cap. You are getting all that stuff cut up and placed in place, tightened down. You are adding your 50-50 mix. And if you have straight antifreeze and it's not a 50-50 blend, then you need to add distilled water to that straight antifreeze. Like I said before, you cannot run straight antifreeze. It does not have the same cooling properties as the 50-50 mix. You can also pick up a little gauge thing where you it sucks coolant and or water up into the gauge, and it will tell you what the freezing point is. So anyways, you've filled this up, not running, up to the top. You fired up, let it run for quite a while without, get it up to running, operating temperature, with the cap off. The thermostat will open at the proper operating temperature when it gets up to the proper heat. You will see some swirling inside of here with the cap off. The water is swirling because the thermostat has opened and there's movement going through the system. Let it run a little bit longer, and the level should drop down. Top it off as necessary, and you can either go out for a quick drive, come back, let it cool down, and see what the operating temperature. In the meanwhile, you are turning the heater on inside the cab to get full circulation out of this vehicle. Anyway, another successful project. Thanks for watching, and this is just a basic one, but you know, some people are just learning.